Hello guys, today we will be talking about Yugoslavian M70 assault rifle. As you can see, this is pretty much clone of an AKM, but it's a little bit more complicated. So let's get a little bit into the history. Yugoslavia kept probably the most autonomy out of the entire Eastern Bloc. So, for example, Soviet Union was actually reluctant to share some of its technology with them. So what they were forced to do was to basically develop the AK on themselves by the means of reverse engineering. And here we have the result, Zastava M70. For example, Soviet Union actually gave the entire production line for the SKS auto-loading rifle to Yugoslavia because that rifle became very quickly obsolete, but they just didn't want to share the AK technology. So what the Yugoslavians decided to do is make AK by themselves, and here we have the result. And now the most interesting part, and that's history of Zastava M70s in Ukraine. Historically they were always around. For example, what is very funny argument by the Russian propaganda is that the guns will be actually exported out of Ukraine for criminal elements. Well, historically and even now, it's actually much more common to smuggle guns inside Ukraine, and that's exactly the history of the Zastava M70s before 2022. This is also why in Europe, let's say Sweden, France, most of the gang activities are done with guns out of Yugoslavia, namely by the Zastavas. In 2022, number of these guns were imported as help, as international help to us. So since then you can on occasion see territorial defense forces having Zastavas. But the total number imported wasn't actually that big, so these guns can be considered still pretty rare. And now let's take a look at the rifle and its specific features, and there are many. The main component is that this rifle was supposed to launch rifle grenades. We know that from the development of the SKS, the further modification of SKS by Yugoslavia were modified to fire rifle grenades, and the same type of grenades were grandfathered to this type of AK and even developed further. So of course to launch rifle grenades we need special adapter that go to the front of the weapon. It uses the standard AK 14x1 left-hand thread pitch. Then we have the front side post that, unlike other types of AKs, have actually this flip-up night sight that had a tritium element in it, or at least a fluorescent paint, to help you aim in night. So you have flip-up sight in the front and also in the rear of the weapon right here. Like so. Then we go to the barrel that is a little bit heavier than on traditional AKMs. It have this medium profile, again for added sturdiness when launching the grenade, because there is a lot of stress on the weapon itself. Talking about barrels, we getting to the by far biggest problem with the M70 series. And that's for whatever reason, nobody really know for sure. The Yugoslavs didn't choose to chrome-line their barrels. So the barrels are just normal metal. What that does is that most of the guns that you will see around the world actually seem quite good on the exterior, but when you look inside the barrel there is a lot of rust and a lot of pits made by rust. So of course the longevity of the gun is really affected. What doesn't really help is the factory ammunition for this type of gun, which is M67 I believe, and this is Yugoslavian domestic 7.62x39. That only use little bit different shape of bullet, and it doesn't have steel core, it's just lead bullet. This round is relatively precise, but it's much more corrosive, even than any other 7.62 ammunition made in China, made in any other European countries. So when you are actually in a situation that you fielding AKMs of normal European production and the Zastavas, it's kind of wise to actually take the Yugoslavian ammo, put it in the chrome-lined guns, and if you have some other Eastern European ammo, shoot it out of Zastavas. But still, you need to clean really well meaning a Western standard of maintenance. After every shooting, as soon as possible, clean the gun, flush the gun, so there are no corrosive salts inside the bore and inside the weapon. But of course, as you can imagine, in the normal fighting, normal condition, these guns really struggle to keep the pristine barrels. On the flip side of that, you actually don't need perfect bench rest quality barrels, bench rest quality of the bore maintenance in assault rifles. So even though the bores sometimes look really badly, and you just thinking, okay, this is just a rusted pipe, when the head spacing is kind of okay, the guns just run, and even the accuracy is kind of okay, because these are assault rifles, and for combat accuracy you actually don't need accurate weapons at all. Then we moving to this feature, which is your grenade launcher sight. So basically you aiming by the front end of the grenade, and here you have increments inside the sight. Also, it shut off the gas into the system, so like that you just get bolt action weapon pretty much. So after every shot you need to reload manually. So guys, when you shut off the port, so let's fire a few shots like this. So as you can see, even when you shut off the gas, it's actually quite easy to manual cycle the weapon with the factory normal Soviet, post-Soviet steel cased ammunition. Of course, be careful, because when you firing rifle grenades out of Zastavas, you need blank rounds, and not just any blank round, but you need the rounds that are dedicated to launching the grenades. This is not like FAMAS, for example, because in FAMAS you can actually use live round to launch the grenade. Here, if you manage to fire live round inside the grenade, you will have a real problem. But also what this feature does is that it actually allowed me to build once upon a time a very nice weapon for night fighting. I will tell you how to do it, and hopefully we might take a look at that gun sometime in the future. So what I did was to cut the flip up grenade sight right here, keeping just this small portion. Then bought Ultimate Rail out of America. You need to be careful because you need the Yugo pattern, because this length it's a little bit longer than on standard AKMs. Then added suppressor to the gun, and what you were supposed to do was that you took your magazine with normal ammunition and you just put it 2 subsonic rounds on top. And you had red dot on top rear, and then canted 45-degree red dot on side right there. How to use this weapon? Basically in reconnaissance we used such modified weapons, although based on Soviet AKs. For simple reason, because we didn't have VSS winter resist. Back in the day we didn't have 300 blackout. And what you do is that you zero the top red dot for the subsonic ammunition. You cutting the sight just simply to see over the top. And why actually don't use the canted red dot for the subsonic? That's very simple. Because with the subsonic round, you need to be really precise, because the bullet dropping really quickly. So it's much better in terms of marksmanship and in terms of firing through night vision through the red dot, to have the red dot in the axis like so. That was for your subsonic. So you had basically 2 attempts to fire the subsonic bullet and shoot whatever you were aiming at. Why the gas block shut off was crucial in that role? That's simple, because you didn't get any port pop at all, and also not any smoke and sound out of the receiver of the weapon. So you got 2 very silent shots. Then, if you didn't manage to hit anything or just firefight started, what you were supposed to do was just collapse the front sight, so like that you basically get normal semi-auto, full auto weapon. Rack the bolt 1-2 times just to eject the subsonic rounds, and then you can fight normally with the canted 45-degree red dot. That was 0 again for your traditional ammunition full power. I already mentioned the upper hand guard, so you can even tell by eyes that you have here actually 3 slots. In normal AKMs it's usually only 2. So this handguard is little bit longer. What that does is that it's little bit more comfortable to hold. You can do little bit better, more secure grip. But also it's very hard to buy some aftermarket accessory. Although over the years and with the import of AK Zastava to USA, now actually you can buy some accessory even from Magpul, for example. That will become crucial when we talking folding stocks for this type of weapon. Just talking about the receiver, we definitely need some added sturdiness, so we can see pretty much the RPK profile. Here it's a little bit stronger. This specific example is Zastava M70 B1. The normal M70 had actually milled receiver. The B series had normal stamped receiver. Although they used the 1mm thick metal for the early variants, later moving to the 1.5mm thickness, again for added sturdiness when launching the rifle grenades. The trigger groups, they are actually compatible with any other types of AKs. The same goes for the magazines. Although the Yugoslavs actually created little feature that they added bolt hold open on the mag itself. What they did was to catch the bolt in the rear position, which seems like a good idea. Then when you pull out the weapon, the bolt flying forward, and you need to recharge when you reload. Me personally, I don't like to add the Yugo magazines into the mix because it's like adding inconsistency, because one time you have normal, for example, Hungarian magazine without bolt hold open, then you have Yugoslav with bolt hold open, then you get little scared that you maybe have malfunction when you see the bolt in the back. It just added inconsistency in my opinion. Of course, this argument is invalid, for example, if you serve in Serbian army and all guns have this bolt hold open feature, then of course. But in any other settings, I just prefer not to use the Yugoslav magazines. It also uses the older pattern of the safety that actually have little less tension than the traditional AKM types. So what you can do is to get really nice, very smooth safety where you don't need to use a lot of power. So here you have your semi, here you have your single, no problem there. Also kind of specific is the Yugo pattern of pistol grips, but again those are compatible with any other type. Then we getting to the stock. A lot of the M70s actually use underfolding stocks that are okay in my opinion, and the fixed stock, it's actually not your traditional AKM pattern because it does use a socket, so you need to buy Yugo specific stocks. But the benefit is that this stock is very strong, again for launching the rifle grenades, but also when you want to beat something with the butt pad. Some of the AKs or other Western rifles have actually problem with that. Here you can just smashing all day long. Of course, potentially you will damage the rubber pad. Also, this stock doesn't have the trapdoor for the cleaning kit. It's just solid like so. Again, for added sturdiness, and you just have one long screw running into the receiver of the weapon. Adding folding stocks to this gun, it's actually quite good because you can use the Magpul Zhukov series. And since you don't have any tank on top, but only a socket inside, you can actually get little bit more compact package like that. So that's benefit in my opinion. So what is my conclusion about this type of weapon? Me personally, I don't like to think about it as AK family, as part of AK family, because so many things on this gun are just different and many times inferior in my opinion. So this is just like a derivative more than direct clone of the AKM, as we talked before. By far the biggest problem is the missing chrome lining in the barrel. So let's say that you come somewhere, you have time to inspect the gun, you can actually check the barrels if the barrel is okay. The Zastavas are quality weapons, of course. But in cases like, for example, this one, when you have very nicely looking AK on the exterior, then you look inside the barrel and it just looks like some old water pipe piece of metal, then of course you tend to choose some other type of weapon from Eastern Bloc when you actually have that choice. Also, one more detail, the top cover of the receiver. It's also not compatible with other types of AK family, and it have this little detent again, preventing the top cover to fly away when launching rifle grenades. So just be mindful when you want to remove top cover from those, you need to press this button and also press the normal disassembly button as well. So overall, these are quality weapons. Also, the sales department in Zastava must have been very creative over the years, because you can see absolutely everywhere around the world those represented. Also, some of our guys doing the training abroad, actually doing their basic training in NATO armies again with Zastava rifles. Thank you very much guys for watching. If you wish to support us, you can use the PayPal link down below or become YouTube member for extra videos.